Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Hi, welcome. Let me go to. Hi, welcome to Understanding in the INCOSE Certificate for System Engineers. It's good to have you here. I appreciate you spending your evening with me. Um, Unfortunately, you won't be able to talk to me. I can talk to you, but you can talk to me through your fingers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just giving you a quick rundown of how this software works. So let me do that real quick so that you guys can start using the chat functions and stuff like that. So that in mind, I have to go up here and all right. All right. Oh, sorry. I have that. I use about. Oh, by the way, can you guys hear me? That's actually one of the things. If you could type yes into the thing, if you can hear me, that'd be great. Okay, Scott can hear me, and so can Jim. Good, good, good. We're oh, so I'm gonna go back and forth here as we talk. We'll just technology. You gotta love it. Um, this is a system engineering dream. I'm trying to pull together about 3 or 4 different hardware configurations as well as softwares. So, all right, here we go. Again, I really appreciate you all being here. What we're going to do is, first of all, just kind of show you how this software works and what you see. One of the things is down below there. A lot of you have already put yes and yep, and that's good. It's also a good place if you could just tell me, when did you first hear about INCOSE and the SEP program, the System Engineering Professional Program. It'll just give me a feel for how much depth I need to go into for INCOSE itself. But because that's the way I'm going to start, and we'll get into our agenda here in a minute. Another thing that really helps me communicate, and this is kind of hard for me because I like being in front of students, and you are all my students. And so what I would like you to do, if down there you'll see a little icon, a little like happy face, if you guys could all click on that and see if you can select what I would say is the plus or the raising the hand or a plus sign. That way I know you guys can see it. Now, one of the reasons I want you to do that, that's good. We got Deborah, Jess, anybody else, Dan, Jim. Uh, one important thing about that is I'm going to, if you actually have a question and you're typing something in, like Deborah has her hand up now, I will see that hand. I'll go, oh, there's something I should read, and then I'll look down and read the chat session and then answer it. So I think that's the best way to handle this. I know it says here I'll turn on your mic. I actually it's a little bit more involved in that respect. Now I will be asking you questions, maybe yes or no, like have you heard of blah blah blah. It'd be good to have you say plus or minus, and that way I know it'll work. All right. The other thing is if you're, and this has happened, I've been doing this for about a few months now, a few times, and the software does get finicky depending on your internet connection. So if you kind of go out, you may have to go back to my email or go back to Canvas and click again and go back in again. So just kind of come out and go in. But if you need, like if the audio or video starts acting up, you know, just let me know with the little life preserver, and that way I'll know. Worst comes to worst, I may have to shut down my end and start up again. And I hope you don't leave me during that time, but that's probably the best way to get around this. So just be prepared for that if in the middle of this we all freeze, or if I freeze up. We'll see. Fortunately, in this webinar configuration, what's nice about this configuration is the fact that I'm not trying to get your video or audio to work. It's just me. So it does tend to be a little bit more stable in that respect. All right. Thank you for answering the questions. I appreciate that. There's a few of you that are familiar with INCOSE and some that are very new to it. So I'll try to keep that in mind as I'm talking about INCOSE. What I'm going to do is, first of all, just kind of, I'm called SE Scholar. I like that name, but I probably should have went with SE Philosopher, because I do like to talk about the importance of system engineering in the worldwide world. So, and we're going to talk how INCOSE is involved in trying to bring up the level of system engineering. And then the whole idea of the certificates, the certifications, what they mean, and then actually go through the application process with you. And I'll review those very key requirements of the certification, your education experience, which is all in the application, and then the knowledge, which is in the exam. So we'll cover all those so that you'll have a complete understanding of how they go about looking at your application, looking at the exam in order to give you the certification. Who am I? Well, I've been an engineer since the late 70s. Worked for General Electric for toaster ovens. That was kind of nice. Not too complex. You could kind of take it apart with a screwdriver. But from there, I went to NAVC, and then we had huge weapon systems. They got a little bit more complicated at that point. Worked there almost 17 years. It was actually there, they actually allowed me to go to school full time, and I got my master's in system engineering. From there, I worked for NEMA. I know it's called NGA. I'm old school that way. And also worked for the Army and worked for DOD even to this day as a contractor. I'm also a UMBC adjunct professor. I teach a course called Integration, Implementation, and Test, as well as a course, a graduate level course, based on the handbook, learning the handbook course that I saw online here. So if you've been on my website, you know what that's all about. I've been teaching this CEP exam prep, not only at that graduate level, that was first time this year, but for several years now, since 2009, several hundred students. And it's kind of gotten me used to teaching it, and you may not know this, but version 4 of the handbook's coming out. So I've had a good run with version 3.2 here for several years, but I'm going to have to rewrite it for next year. But it's good for this year. We're going to be fine. Thank you for telling me where you are. One of the things I'm going to do, let me just look through what you guys wrote. Dan's familiar, only been involved with them in the last few months. Robin, first heard about in '94. That's like, Robin, that's like when it started. That's pretty good. SE program back a few years back. INCOSE's new to me for Jess, apart from the web. Oh, okay. And I'll talk a little bit about where INCOSE has come from, and same with Deborah. All right, so let's first talk about the need for system engineering. This actually, I'm also a member of IEEE, not only INCOSE. And this is actually one of my favorite quotes that actually deal with system engineering. It talks about the fact, and when I read this back in a few years back, it really resonated with me because I was a NAVC system engineer for years. And why is the weapons acquisition broken is basically what it was about. And so this great quote that talked about that there was another factor contributing to program failure is this shortage of technically trained people, especially system engineers. A system engineer translates the technical needs into the overall system architecture that creates the best operational capability at the most affordable cost. As the program proceeds, project proceeds, goals or needs shift. And system engineers, they're the ones who have to determine that difficult but necessary costs, schedule, and performance trade-offs to keep everything on track. And as the programs get bigger and more complex, the need for rigorous system engineering increases. One reason I love this quote is the fact that it just talks to the fact that, yes, coming up with a solution as an engineer is fine. But can you come up with a solution that meets the schedule constraints, that meets the program funding constraints? That's where the key to the system engineer. Of course, they want to provide an optimal solution, but it has to be in the realities of what the program dictates. And so those type of things is what the system engineer brings to the party. And a few years back, CNN Money, actually it was back in 2009, I know it was a few years back, 5 years I guess, but they actually chose system engineering as job #1. And they even mentioned the certification. And they have a nice little write-up there in terms of that. So system engineering is important. And why is it important? To me, it's important because they're problem solvers. We are living in a world filled with problems. Now, a lot of these problems probably have come about by engineering what we thought were solutions, you know. So we wind up having to solve this problem that we thought we were solving in the first place, or the new problem that emerged because of that solution we deployed. So our John Thomas, our president from INCOSE last year, wrote a nice paper talking about why do we need system engineers from an organizational standpoint. And he talked about how in organizational products or services, it's where system engineers, they're the ones that provide the critical leadership for integrating the technical activities. They have skills to influence multidisciplinary teams to reach consensus on how the system solution should be together. As problem solvers, they focus on outcome, not just process. Very important. I think if any of you have been system engineers for a while, let me show it this way. One of the things I do for my course is try to show you all the 27 processes in one chart. And that's what this is back here. And what you'll find is when you're a system engineer for just a little while, you find yourself kind of stuck, not so much, but you know, you have to pay your dues, right? So you're working verification or test, right? Or you're working some design issue or even implementation. And you're way down in what I call the bowels of the system engineering machinery. Okay, this is the machinery that's embedded in a program because of an organization has a goal or a objective. And as system engineers, we can't just be concerned with so much the process. Is it value for the project and for the organization? So that's the key aspect of what we're trying to work here. So INCOSE, this was back, actually, one of you Probably remembers 1994 was when INCOSE, oh, actually it was founded in 1990, so not 94. I think 94, I think of that because that's when I got my master's in system engineering. But back in 1990, a bunch of system engineers, they were mainly DoD contractors, but they were like, really, we need something to talk about our profession as system engineers. And so they founded, it was a non-for-profit member organization, and it was just meant to disseminate the aspects of system engineering. So the whole sharing, promoting, and advancing the best of system engineering across the globe with that concept that we can benefit humanity and the planet if we're involved in those solutions. So that's a big thing. And they want to be the world's authority in system engineering. And really, if you come across any article that's going to talk about system engineering, what are they going to refer to? They'll probably refer to INCOSE, and they'll refer to the system engineering definition that INCOSE put out. And that they'll say, oh, this is what system engineering is, according, because they're the authority. There really is no other organization out there that works system engineering. They have a lot of products in order to push their system engineering agenda, so to speak. They have these great symposiums. This year, going to be a symposium in Las Vegas, or outside Las Vegas, in one of their in a nice resort or something like that. About 2 years ago, they had it in Rome, and last year they had it in Philadelphia. So the symposiums are a great place to go and hear papers dealing with system engineering, the state of the art, as well as networking with other system engineers. They have a journal of system engineering, which is actually scholarly papers dealing with system engineering. Their own member magazine called Insight, which is a great way to find out what what INCOSE is doing, and things like that, and conferences and other things. And they also have helped with the system engineering body of knowledge, what's called the SE-BOC. INCOSE helped with that. They're the ones that approached the object management group, OMG, or oh my God, but OMG are the ones that have UML, and INCOSE approached them and said, hey, can we make a modeling language for system engineers? And they came up with systems modeling language. And they also have the INCOSE System Engineering Handbook, which is actually the basis for the exam for this product here, which is the certification program. So the handbook, which is based on ISO standard 15288, is been expanded into this handbook, and they use that for the exam. But the exam is only one aspect of the certification program. Basically what they were trying to do is establish this multi-level professional system engineering program, certification program, which provides a formal method that recognizes your knowledge, your experience of the engineers, regardless of where they are in their career. So that's why you start with, if you notice down here, we start with the ASEP, then the CSEP, and then the ESEP. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I was the CSEP for about 5 years or so, and then I transitioned over to ESEP. All right, so this just talks about why this certification is helpful. Of course, the engineering community needs it because, to tell you the truth, there's a lot of confusion about what system engineering is out there. I don't know if you've ever tried to go get a job and a recruiter calls you and says, we need a system engineer to administrate this IT behemoth that we have, and it's like, I don't do I do IT in terms of a solution towards a system, but I'm not a system administrator. And so that's where the community, it definitely helps having these certifications, getting it out there. And of course, as professionals, you want some recognition that attain the knowledge and education and experience required for system engineering. And then organizations, if they do it right, they can have their people certified within their processes as well. But it's a great factor that they can use when they put in their proposals. And it's been around since 2004. So think about that. It's only about 10 years since the certification has started. Basically, the way it started was INCOSE was already maybe, when did we start? 2004. So it was about 14 years INCOSE's been together, and a lot of the members were saying, hey, we see these other organizations have certifications, why can't we have our own? And so the board of directors agreed with that, and they started the certification program. Now keep in mind, this is a certification program, not a certificate. If you want a certificate, come to my UMBC, the college UMBC, take 5 classes. I'll give you a certificate that says you took these 5 classes, because that's all a certificate does, is attest to the fact that you completed some kind of course or something like that. It's not a license. That's more something put out by the state in order to carry out some profession or business, like licensing a lawyer or things, or a professional engineer. They would get a license in that respect. No, what this is, a certification, is it's actually certifying or confirming your competency as an individual through education, experience, and knowledge that you actually are good in your profession or occupational specialty. And it's very formal. It should be led by an organization, and it should be a voluntary type certification. A lot of you here are on your own time to look at this certification, and it shouldn't bar you or be a gate into entering a job. However, you've probably noticed when you have a certification, the recruiters usually perk up their ears, and it helps them out. So it can be a real qualifier. If a recruiter is looking at a great a system engineer with certain amount of time in a certain amount, like 20 years experience or 15 years experience, and they're looking at you with the same amount, but they're non-certified and you're certified, it's that one edge that you need. In order to come up with, and again, getting a certification like this, a lot of organizations have them, and what they use is this ISO 17024, which is that international standard that actually sets out the criteria. It talks about how you would be examined for your competency, how your knowledge, skills, and attributes come into play, an examination that's independent from the actual organization, and also the examination is a valid test of your competency. So all that is within this ISO standard. And you'll find like PMI, right? PMI, by the way, give me a plus sign if you've heard of PMI, and just tell me if you've heard of it, plus sign. If you guys can use the thing. Jess hasn't, okay. But PMI, the Program Management Institute, has been around a while, a little longer than us. We've been around for almost 20 years. 30, 20, 90, 2000 would have been 10, so maybe 24 years. But I think the PMI has been around since the 80s, and they started their certification program. Does anybody know how many PMI program management professionals there are for all their little things? You can type it in if you know it, or take a guess. I would love you guys to take a guess. See if you guys know. Now I saw a graphic for this, and it kind of blew away. That's why. Scott says exactly 53,182. Jim went to the high side, 100,000. I don't think there's 100,000. Actually, 100,000 is too low, right? So it turns out they have almost 400,000. So absolutely amazing. So PMI actually has done a great job in getting their certification recognized by contracts and professionals. You can't actually have a government contract if the head of that program is not PMI certified. And they have different levels. And so PMI is probably one of those organizations we can look at and that we're trying to emulate a little bit. But there's other certifications. If you ever heard of the CISSP, which is Certified Information System Security Professional, that's put out by the International Information System Security Certification Consortium. Right? There's an organization. Even IEEE, which I'm a member of, has their Certified Software Development Professional. All of these pretty much follow the same route that INCOSE has, where you put in an application, you take a test, and then they look at the results of both of those and figure if you are indeed worthy of the certification. So you saw there were some with no level of certification. INCOSE is no different. They have an entry level, a basic level, or foundation level, and they also have an expert level or a senior level. So it depends on where you are with your career. There's a certification for you. We talked about this, about why is it important for organizations. It's a great way for organizations to make sure their system engineers are certified, and that could be a selling point when they're trying to actually go out for proposals. And of course, you have an organization with that kind of people, with that kind of certification for a lot of their people, it kind of sets them apart and stuff. But basically, what you have is if you look at an organization, it has its own system engineering processes. Okay, so they would get certified by like ISO or CMMI. If you guys know what those are, they're like the ISO 9000 is a quality product. CMMI is the capability model maturity integrated. Those are the type of things you can actually certify your processes for your company. But what about the people who actually run those processes? So that's where, from an organization standpoint, they can kind of go from, hey, my processes are certified and my people are certified. So you're going from organization to the actual people themselves. For you as an individual, again, just like an organization, you're trying to discriminate yourself. One nice thing about it, now back here, if you remember, I actually mentioned the fact that most organizations have their own processes in place. And you can actually go and they'll teach you those processes. They'll probably give you a certificate. Hey, I know my company processes. But you can't take that to another company. As a matter of fact, you probably have an NDA that you can't, right? A non-disclosure agreement. You can't be taking that information to another company. But for this, the certification is something that's portable. Doesn't matter where you go, that CSEP is yours and yours alone. So that's one nice thing about that. And it kind of sets apart. Now, keep in mind, when you're certified, you do have these continual education units, or PDUs, professional PDUs, which you need to, professional development units, that you need to do. And that also kind of shows your commitment to your career and your profession. And I think it really shows employers how dedicated you are to your profession. And if you have a team that's working this and you're all informed on how INCOSE works and you're all certified, you know the handbook. That kind of gives you this way to have a common language for talking about system engineering. So your concepts and your activities are easily talked about because you're all kind of certified in that same area. So it's very useful, especially if you have teams that are geographically dispersed. This is a great way to make this work. So leverage that certification, get the recognition, sorry. It's getting late. I don't know if it's getting late for you. A little late for me, I guess. Get recognized by your the fact that you're certified. And as an organization, they kind of have this way of being able to see who are the serious individuals in this area, and that can be a discriminator for them as well. So they'll put it in a job advertisement. They'll have a proposal that discriminates them as serious about system engineering. Now remember, how many PMI certifications are there? About 400,000. As you can see by this graph, we're trying to catch up to them, and we have maybe 2,000. We've been at this since 2004 for 10 years. It's taken a while, but as you can see, it's taken a while, but it is taking off. Like once companies and DoD and the government realizes that not only do they need a certified program manager, but they should have a certified system engineer in there as well in order to make sure a project is successful. I think this will just take off. At least that's what I'm hoping for. So I think we're seeing signs of that already as the certificate is being well known out there. So, all right, so we talk about, oh yes, it's been experiencing growth and recognition since it's been introduced. One of the things, and I don't know where some of you are coming from a company standpoint, but there's agreements, there are certain companies that are very dedicated to system engineering, like MITRE or TASK or Lockheed Martin, BAE Systems. If you're part of any of those, you actually are can actually do well in those companies because they have that it's less money for them. They'll help you with your application. So these are good things to look into. So if you're a member of any of these, and I'll show you how to get on the website and check if your company is part of what they call the CAB, or if they have these agreements. So that's the other thing. If they do have an agreement, what it does is it provides them the ability to review your application, make sure it's right, and then when they send it in, they can be less money. It can be for the fee could be less because they would send in a bunch at the time. Oh yeah, the council in because it used to be companies. Oh, are these council now? No, that's a good question, Robin. INCOSE is the International Council of System Engineers. They do have a corporate advisory board. It's called the CAB, and that's the company can be part of that. Just because they're part of, just like Dan says, does not mean they have an agreement when it comes to certification. But it does mean when they're part of the CAB that you can get the handbook, at least a PDF of it, for free through your company. So that's a nice little that's a nice benefit for this. The agreements are a little different in that they have to actually like have a review board set up. They're different levels, right? If they have a review board, they'll review your application. They'll make sure it's right, And sometimes you don't have to have as many references. You can have 2 instead of 3 because they know the company is grooming you to be part of it. So very good. All right. Very good. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it, Dan. Okay. Now, there's many ways to enter this. Like, for instance, I entered as a candidate for the System Engineering Professional Certificate. I entered at the foundational level at the CSEP. And then after a few years, when the ESEP came around, I went ahead and applied for that. So I went from one to the other. But the way they envision this is out of college, I want to be a system engineer, or 5 years later, you realize, hey, system engineer is cool. You go in and you get your ASEP, which is just basically passing the exam. And then you wait 5 years. If you have the right experience, you can go ahead and apply for the CSEP, and then you can stay in that for a good 15 years or so. And then, of course, get your ESEP as you get into ESEP capabilities and stuff. But there is a easy transition to do that. So what is the associate? That's basically, and there's 2 aspects. There's one aspect here. For the ASEP and for the ESEP, you do need to be a member of INCOSE. That's not the case for the CSEP. And for the CSEP, you do not need to be a member of INCOSE. But because the ASEP and the ESEP are a little different than what the ISO standard talks to, they say you need to be a member of INCOSE and stuff. So, and for the ASEP, basically what you do is you give your name to INCOSE, and they say, hey, that's great, go take the test. You take the test. If you pass it, boom, you've got your ASEP. Oh, okay, Scott. We'll see you later. By the way, Scott, we will be recording this so you can watch it later. So you don't have to worry about that, hopefully. All right. All right. So entry level ASEP, and once you get your ASEP, they give you 5 years in order to get ready and perhaps transition to a CSEP. However, it may take you longer because your experience isn't broad enough. If that's true, you can renew it. Now, they'll let you renew it 3 times, like in 15 years. If they are figuring you're not becoming a CSEP by then, maybe you'll never will. So, and of course, we haven't been around enough to actually see this happen, but that's kind of the rules they set into place. The application process for the ASEP, as I said, very easy. You send in your money, you send in your name, they come back to you, say, here's the test, you take it, and boom, you're certified. So I've actually had students, because I teach this exam prep, because the CSEP application can get very, very complicated. They actually said, why don't I go get my ASEP and work on my application for the next 6, 8 months, a year, and then submit that and get my CSEP. So that's something you may want to think about. But the foundation level, and this is the first one that they put together in 2004, is the CSEP. And this is for people who either have 5 or more years, they have certain amount of experience related to about 3 to 5 work-related references, and that their knowledge is certified through the exam. By the way, the ASEP exam, CSEP exam, same exact exam. There's no difference. Also, they want to make sure that you are increasing your professionalism in terms of development. So every 3 years, you have to renew your application and show that you have 120 PDUs within those 3 years. So that's important to them as well. This gets a little more complicated because what you need to do is put your application in, right? And your application includes your experience and your references, all right? So you put those in. The references have to come in with their recommendations. And what they INCOSE does is review both of those. your references as well as your application. If it looks good, they say, go ahead, take the test. Now that could take some time, right? About 4 weeks or so. So this is where, this is one of the reasons I have this understanding INCOSE certificate. Start your application and don't think about the exam until your application's in. Because you may find that you're having some issues getting the application together. Here you've studied for an exam that you can't even take. So the idea I put out is go ahead, get your application, and when they come back and say you can take the test, you have a year to be able to prepare. So go ahead and start studying at that time. Call Prometrics, that's where the exam takes place, and set a date. Say, 2 months from now, I want to take the test. Boom, take it, study all that time, or take my course, which is only 4 weeks long. And then once you're done with either the course or studying, you can go right in there and take it. And you're not carrying around the handbook in your head for over a year or something because your application didn't work. So that's where you want to do. Is that one? Oh, yes. Good question, Dan. It is 1 year from your application submittal. So once they get it, the time starts. So that's why it's important you get your references. They want you to bug your references so that they're not that long pole in the tent. And we'll talk about references and what that means when we get in there. Now, this, as you can imagine, takes a while because your application, when is it going to happen and all that. However, you could do something where your application is together, you've told your references, you put it in, you say, hey, INCOSE, could I go ahead and just take the test with the assumption that my references will be fine? So they'll look at your application, and if it's sufficient enough, they'll go ahead and say, go ahead and take the test. Now, of course, there's a possibility your references come back and say, no, we didn't like it, even though you passed the test. Now, you could back it off into the ACEP realm if that's the case. They allow you to do that. So the test first option is a great way to just study and get it out and not wait for the application, because the application can take some long. But I don't think you should study for the exam till your application's finished. That's for sure. All right, and then the ECEP, I don't know how many of you are interested in this, but this is a different certification. They're not so much worried about your knowledge in terms of exam. You don't have to take the exam, but they do want to see 20 to 25 years of experience. The work-related references will be actually contacted and interviewed. You will be interviewed. As a matter of fact, you can see here, the application takes a while. The interviews will take place with the references in yourself, and then you get your certificate. But there's a heavy component on leadership. They want to see that you've either led a program or taught system engineering, that you have a advanced degree, things like that. So that's the type of stuff they want to see. This actually is no longer the case. They used to have an extension for acquisition, which was based on DoD acquisition, the acquisition guide, the Defense Acquisition Guide, the DAG, Chapter 4, which is all about system engineering. But they no longer do this. They kind of sunsetted it. People weren't getting it as much as they thought. So they're hoping, by the way, to do what INCOSE, what PMI did. As you know, they have like one that says certified program management professional emphasizing risk or something like that. So INCOSE would love to do that for like architecture or something like that. It's just taken them a while to put it together. Did I mention it's been 10 years? So it's taken them a while to get the synergy of this to work. Let's look at those it's only 3 elements for CSEP person. That's kind of what I'm going to be looking and concentrating on. Okay, so you can see the CSEPs in there. Experience, knowledge, and education is what is in that Venn diagram. So let's look at education. Pretty straightforward. They just want a technical bachelor's degree. Okay, it has to be technical. It can't be like liberal arts or something like that. They won't take that. So it should be like maybe an engineering degree would be great, or maybe a study of science like chemistry or physics or math. Those are good. If you feel like, let's say you have technical management or something like that, look, contact them. They'll let you know if it's good or not. They pretty much look through this and tell you if it's workable or not. By the way, it doesn't mean just because maybe you just have a high school diploma, it turns out that's fine. You just have to add 10 years to the 5 years they're looking for. So and if you have a liberal arts degree from a BS, then you have to add 5 years. So it'll be for a non-technical bachelor's degree, you need 10 years for your CSEP. And for a no bachelor's of science at all, then you need 15 years to show it. So you can still get your CSEP, it's just you have to show more experience as you're doing this. By the way, if you have a liberal arts bachelor or something like that, like English or something, but you actually got your master's in system engineering or electrical engineering or computer science or physics or whatever, your master would then be used in this education realm and you'll be fine. And you just need that plus your 5 years. Experience. Now this is where the actual application comes into play. And what they do is they talk about 14 functional areas that kind of emulate the system engineering experience. So you have technical competencies where you look at things like requirements engineering, design, system, qualification, verification, and validation. Or you may have some system engineering management, certain technical competencies from a management standpoint. Have you done technical planning, technical effort assessment, risk and opportunity management, or baseline control? All of those are technical management competencies. The other thing they have is support competencies. Are you doing some specialty engineering like electromagnetic capability or mass engineering, you know, trying to figure out your mass design? Your process definition. Companies have to have processes. You teaching or defining those processes or teaching those and training those processes is an important support function as well. Or if you've had to come up with some training for the system that you developed, that's another thing. Tool support and quality assurance is the other aspect. And then there's plus other. So what they want is a balanced experience across these areas. So, and by the way, I've written these down for you. You can look them up. Actually, part of your application, you pull down the application explanation of how to fill out the actual form. This is actually Appendix A. So my plea to you is read these, really get to know them before you even start the application. Because what you'll find you'll have to do is take your resume and rip it up in accordance to these areas. I'm going to show you how I do that within the application. Attachment A in the experience application for certification. All right. So there's 5 years. They want to see 5 years, but in those 5 years, they want to see 3 or more of those 14 areas. All right. So if you look at the 14 areas here, within 5 years, did you spend a year in requirements engineering, a year of specialty, and a year in risk and control? And then the other 2 years, it could be one of these or it could be more. But that's what they want to see. And I call it 12 months or more in 3 areas is what we're going to look at. The way they actually look at this is through this thing called the application matrix. So I'm going to show you how to work that. So you don't have to have all of them. Of course, they'd appreciate it if you had more than 4, more than 3, I mean. But really, they will do the minimum. If you have the minimum 3 experience in 3 areas over a year in each one, that's all they're looking for. So, and this kind of shows you what I'm talking about in terms of if you think of A as areas, right? Um, Option 1 is I've only been in 3 of these system engineering areas. One of them I was 3 years in, and I was in 1 year for each of the others, right? The other option is I was 3 years in on 3 things. On the 4th one, I was 2 years. And then you can imagine there are many ways to mix and match this thing, right? So you could have 3 years in any type of combination. The important part is that you have 12 months or more in 3 of these areas. So let's look at the application, okay? You, of course, go to the website and download the application. This just shows you how to go there and pull down the actual, download the actual application as you're doing. So you have several forms as you're doing that. Matter of fact, you should be seeing the actual application itself, the actual instructions on how to fill it out. That's the one that you need to read, especially Appendix A for all these areas, system engineer areas. You also have a letter that you would provide your references to tell them what you're trying to do, and then the references have to fill out this reference endorsement form. So those are the 4 forms that you need, and of course you have to work with your references to make sure that they fill out the form and send it in, all done through email and stuff. So what I propose you do is actually figure out who your prospective references are and go ahead and email them. It's very important that your references are system engineers. Now, if you can find system engineers that are certified, so much the better. But did I tell you that we have less than 2,000? So sometimes they're hard to find. So what they'll need to do is actually, when they fill out the form, they actually have to say, I've been a system engineer and here's the system engineering things I've done. So we'll talk about that when we look at their reference, when we look at their recommendation form that they need to fill out. Okay. All right. So, and by the way, let me know how many of you are in my Canvas website, my learning management system. Hit a plus sign if you are, and I can tell if you're still awake. So, well, Dan, when you get a chance, do try to get in there because I have some actual email. Oh, a lot of you are not in. So I'll explain why that's important. There's some material in that learning management system that I think would help you pull together your application, especially these emails. So basically what I do is I just have some emails that say, hey, so-and-so system engineer, hey, remember the great times we had during that verification and validation of that system we were part of? Hey, would you mind telling these nice and cozy folks about it, and put in there. The one thing you don't want to do, and I have to really emphasize this, is don't copy and paste from your application into the email or provide it to them, because you don't want them to copy and paste that into their endorsement form, because that gets caught. They see that and they're like, what is this? Somebody's not. So you want to give them words that make sense to them and will give them the sense of what they should be writing into their endorsement form. And then there's the experience matrix. Okay, so what you need to do sometimes, sometimes what you feel, there are aspects of where you may be doing system engineering and you may not feel it's system engineering, but read those 14 system engineering work areas and see if any of them would match up and try to put them in there. And of course, you would be working several functions at the same time. I'm doing design and quality control at the same time with a little bit of risk and opportunity management. Well, you did that for 12 months or 18 months, whatever, but split it up. Say, well, I did risk management maybe 33% of the time. So take that 18 months, multiply by 33%, boom, you have how many months it would be. So that's what you want to do is try to think. Now, you have to take your resume and split it up accordingly. So this is kind of hard to see um, from here, but basically what it is, and by the way, I'll make these things. Let me go into a pencil here. I'll highlight it as we do this. So let's see if this works. Oh, didn't work. Okay, so basically, let me try to get the pen to work here. I have to get up close here. Sorry about being in your face, but it's the only way I know how to do it. There we go. And we'll do a highlighter. Okay, now, number one, when you fill out your application, there's positions, right? They have 7 positions that you can fill out. Now, if you have more, what I did was I did a position per thing, and then I split up sub positions, so to speak. So when I did the 14 years of NAVC, I said that was position 4, and then I split it up. By the way, when you join my Canvas, I do allow you to see my application if you're interested in terms of how I fill it out. So this is like position 1. Notice up here that I actually go in and, I can never work that. So I can go in and actually say how many months I was in that position. All right. And then what I do is I go down and I say, within those 18 months or whatever, it could be 20 or whatever, I actually did so many months, right, of technical planning. So in here, I did 12 months of technical planning right here. See, right here. And then I did just a few months of process definition, about 9. Okay. Those experiences, and that's why it's important you rip up your resume when you put this together, they wound up being put on the matrix. So you go to the matrix and you go, oh, 9 months here, 12 months here. You do it for each position. And then you notice in the column, and I think in the column, that's where they add it up. And what they want to see is over here. Let's see if I can get this to work. Oh, come on. See if I can. If you notice over in this column right here is where I almost gotten out of the pointer. No, I'm still there. Sorry guys. Notice this column here is where it all adds up. And basically what they're looking for is the ability to see 12 or more in 3 areas. That's what they want to see. So as you're filling out each position, do it from the latest position, right, the one you're in now, and then go backwards in times. And if you do that, position 1 will give you so many months per system engineering area. Position 2 will increase that. Position 3 will increase it. Look at your total. Once you've reached 12 for 3 areas, boom, you can stop because that's all they're looking for. As a matter of fact, and actually Jess brings up a good point. She's a professional engineers. What's an EI, Jess, if you don't mind typing that out for me? But just because you have a professional engineer, or you can even have a PH in system engineering, it doesn't matter. They just want a technical degree, engineering intern. Yes, yeah. Oh, I see. It's named something now, renamed to FE. Is that FE or PE? I tell you, I'm FE. So Yes, yes, they would. If you're an engineering intern and you were doing actual with work in those areas like configuration management or other areas, I think they would take that. And as long as you have a degree, that would be fine as well. So good thing. By the way, this application is a Word document. And again, did I mention how small this certification in this, how few they had, as well as the organization itself is pretty small. So because of that, um, they actually do this Word document, and there's really no thing. Oh, hey Ed, how you doing? EIT is Engineering and Training Certification Qualified. The certification wouldn't qualify, but if you, in engineering and training, if you actually did the engineering work and you have to explain that in your application, I think that's what counts. So when you say, you may even actually say that you were engineering training, but indeed you were working these processes down here as you start. I am so bad at this. That's because I can't see where I'm at. But down here, forget it. So it down in the description area, I think you need to go ahead and talk to that. All right. So my point here is that there is no spell check. So it probably behoove you to do all your write-ups in a different Word document and then copy and paste it and do a spell check on that workshop. You can't even spell check once you type. So if you type into the application, there's not even a spell check there. Um, so I just give you a hint on how to work that. This was an 8-hour exam by the state of Pennsylvania. Seriously, Ed? No, they. Okay, so that's different than what I'm thinking. I was thinking you were asking about the experience as an engineering and training. I never heard about this Pennsylvania. That sounds a lot like a professional engineer exam, and that really they don't take it into account. So it's not part of their certification that they're looking for. So, but by the way, are you actually thinking that you would use this the EIT certification um, instead of the education? Maybe is that what you're thinking? Because I've never seen anything about using a PE instead of an actual degree. They want to see a degree. So. Okay, we can look at my application. How many of you feel comfortable with what I've taught today, up to now, about how the matrix is used and how you need 12 months or greater? Give me a plus. Give me a minus if you feel you want me to go into my application. I know it's getting long here. I don't even know what time it is. Okay, a lot of you seem pretty happy with what we've had. So let's move along and just talk real quick about the knowledge. Now, okay, Ed says perhaps it would be considered as part of the education section. There's actually nothing in the application that I know of that talks to certifications, other certifications. So it's an interesting question, but again, the application's there. You can read it. Maybe you can add it and just see what happens. But they really are looking for some kind of technical degree is what they're looking for. All right, knowledge. Okay, so my point is application-wise, as you can see, it's going to take you a while to go through your experiences, your resume, and rip it out into these 14 system engineering areas. So that's why you really need to dedicate yourself, get away in the evening or in the weekends, go to the library, get away from the family and work, and just work, just try to get this thing out. Because it really does take some time and effort. As a matter of fact, INCOSE feels it takes about close to 15 to 20 hours to try to to work all this in. So um, I think that's what they say. The other thing with the ISO guidelines, they talk about this knowledge. So basically, that's the dreaded exam, right? So I've been concentrating on the application because I think that's the most important thing you have to work on for now. But once your application's in, then you have to start worrying about the exam. It's the same basis for the CSEP and ASEP, and it's all based on the handbook. And the handbook is based on ISO 15288. And the exam is very straightforward. It's not 8 hours like Ed had to do with his engineering and training. It's only 2. But you get 120 questions and within that 2-hour time frame. And when you're done, Prometrics, which is the company that administers the test, they'll let you know right away if you passed or not. And if you fail, they'll actually give you a rundown of the areas that you may have been weak in terms of the handbook. So we're talking. So if you do, it says here, candidates are eligible for 2 retests within 1 year. So I've actually had students do this. They fail once, fail twice, third time's the charge. They actually studied that and they were able to pass. But within a year, that's why in a way you want to kind of schedule your exam as close to your application coming in as possible. Really, if you do the exam first, work your application, get it in, and then start studying for the exam, you could do it within a few months or something. That'd be good. Or a few weeks. The initial cost, thank you, Robin, for reminding me. The application is like, I think, $400 or something like that dollars. If you become an INCOSE member, they drop it to $300. Being an INCOSE member is like $100. And part of being an INCOSE member, you are able to get a PDF of the handbook that you can print out and read. I kind of have a way to get the handbook within the Canvas website, and I'll show you that near the end here. And then the exam itself is $80 each time you take it. So it's like, so that's kind of the investment that you have to make. And of course, you want to pass the exam first time if you can. All based on the handbook. So what they do, and this is another thing, the exam questions are very straightforward. They ask you to do multiple choice, or if it's multiple choice, it's probably just 1 out of 3. But normally it's multiple and or 3 out of 5. Almost, over 80% of the questions are 3 out of 5 in the way they do it. So they go through the handbook, try to find lists of more than 5, and then they'll ask a question. So here's a good example. Which 3 of the following are methods that express functional behavior? So, and actually, I really need to redo this. You guys can type in A, B, C, D, and E. So the first one will be A, B, C, D, E. Why don't you guys look at this and tell me what you think the answer is if we go through A, B, C, and D. You guys type away as you're looking through it. So you're choosing 3: network trees, behavior diagrams, allocated requirements diagram, functional flow, block diagram, or integrated definition for functional modeling diagram. Okay, so a few of you put B, D, and E. Okay, so notice how, in a way, you go through and you go network, tree, not sure, behavioral diagram. Hey, it asks for functional behavior. Behavioral diagram is probably good. Allocated requirement document, what's that? So you could scratch that one, right? Functional flow diagram goes with the functional behavior, and now it's in between network trees and integrated definition functional. And of course, that is functional too. So it was easy to guess. But that's the kind of sussing you may have to do. Remember, you have 120 questions. You only have a minute to do this. So you guys picked B, D, and E, and you were right. Very good. And configuration management over there, as you can see, is another example of what the exam questions look like. All right, let's go from there. Getting the handbook, if you're not going to become a member, you need to purchase it for $65, and they'll give you a nice 7x3 or something. It's a little thing. Or what I would suggest, get the PDF. If you become a member, take the PDF to your local print store for about $30–40. You can actually have it printed on 8.5 by 11 spiral bound. Very nice, and I'll show you what mine looks like. So it's a lot easier to read and study. You can actually go and write on the side and stuff like that. And this is 300 pages, even though it's double-sided. So this is what 150 pages look like. Well worth doing that. But you have to study the book, right, in order to get for it. So you can study it, or I've heard people do this. If there are other system users you know in your company, you can form a study group and go through the handbook one page at a time. Of course, I'm going to push. Here's my commercial. I really appreciate you guys being here, but I do have an online class. It's about $500, and I actually give you this framework on the 26 processes within the handbook. I also have a bunch of practice exams, about 365 questions, and also you start appreciating, because the way I teach the handbook, within the aspects of the context of an organization project in your technical processes, you start appreciating it. It's very hard to suss that out of the handbook. And so what I did was I actually got all the processes all interrelating in accordance to the handbook. And the handbook kind of talks to that or alludes to it. I try to really bring that out. I think it's a better way to learn as you're doing it. Again, Canvas is the key. Dan says, my chapter gave me a book for free. Oh, huh. Oh, well, yeah, if the chapter buys the books, it's up to them to hand them out. That's actually a good point, Dan, as you're doing that. So you would have to ask your local chapter if they want to do that. But do look to see if your company is a CAB member or has those agreements. You'll be able to go to book that way, or at least the PDF that way. This learning management system, this Canvas thing, that's a great way for you to go in and take the exams, read my slides, and even revisit. I'll record what I teach, so you're able to go back in and stuff. And of course, just like I'm doing here is the way I teach it. Now, it's about 20 hours. We're going to do it in the evening like we do here. So we'll start at 6 and go till like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, depending on the number of questions I get. The flow diagram of all 26 processes, and then the quizzes. And now the only problem with the quizzes through this learning management system is they give you partial credit, whereas in INCOSE, they do not. If you do not get any of those answers, if you only get 2 out of 3, the question's denied. So that's the only problem with the practice exams I have. But they're very similar. They ask you 3 out of 5 and things like that. As a matter of fact, I have a practice when you get on the Canvas that I provided you for this course, this webinar. I have some practice exam you can try the thing as you work it. So as you can see, there are 4 weeks. It's actually split in, yeah, it's 4 weeks. And week 1 will be class 2, week 3. So we'll go through all 7. This is, I consider what I'm teaching you now class 1. So it's learning what the application is and getting it done. The rest of the classes, 2 through 8, those 7 classes are what I teach. And of course, if you do it right and in time, as you can see down below, I have the application process. If you do exam first, even before your references and things like that, you can have your, you can be ready to take the test in 5 weeks or so. So it's pretty good. All right. So that's my commercial. These are the key requirements. All of them are used to make a measurable parameters um, consistent with the ISO guidelines that the certification process program follows. What level's right for you? It depends, right? Are you just getting started? Maybe you don't have enough experience. Maybe the ACEP is the way to go. If you've been at this for a while, 5 years or more, maybe a CCEP. If you're in the leadership realm and do recognize system accomplishments, maybe the ECEP if you've been at it for 20 or 25 years. And this just shows you what it is that for each level, what they're looking for. So for the ACEP, pass the test. For the CCEP, pass the test, get your application in, have good references. For ECEP, get your application in, good references, and make sure you're a good leader in all this. How long does it take? It really, and this is where it's, you're kind of the long pole, right? How long does it take to get the application together? They'll try to turn it around in 2 to 3 weeks if they can, okay? But then your references may take a while too. And then once that comes together, they need to give it to what they call a application, certification application reviewer, or CAR. They have to look at it. They'll look at your matrix. They'll look at your experience, make sure they match up. That's one of the reasons I think you're making it easier for them by actually showing how you've split up your experience. Once they do that, you're ready to go. And then, of course, within 2 weeks of the application being accepted, they'll let you know to take the exam. It could take long as 200 days. It varies. So you can see this is a long haul process, unfortunately. And there's no way around it. You just spend the time to get it done. I know with family and friends and a job and perhaps going to school, all that takes time as well. So you just have to try to portion this out, which makes sense. Now, you may have some questions. We're almost done here. We're going to talk about the renewal process. Oh, okay. Good, Robin. Right into it. Robin's a good question. All 3 certs require the 120 PDUs. The ECEP does not. As long as you're a member of INCOSE, I'll be an ECEP. I don't have to worry about PDUs. They figure, look, you've been at this for 25, 30 years. You don't have to worry about professional development. You've seen it all. But the ACEP and the CCEP, they do need to have the 120 professional development units. And I have a list here on 2 of the things. One of the things to think about is becoming a member of INCOSE. That gives you about 5 PDUs per year. So that's 15 PDUs. If you go to the local chapter, here, if any of you are in this area around Maryland, we have a really good Chesapeake chapter, Baltimore area, where we really do one lecture a month. You go there, you get 1 PDU. So you can get about 10 of those per year. So that's about 30. The other thing you may want to consider, and they do this in order to try to get their organization to grow, is actually becoming and helping the board of directors or your chapter in some way. And that way, and that's unlimited. So you could spend 5 hours a day working the board of directors, writing up minutes, whatever. And it's 5 hours a month. And it's unlimited. So you could wind up with like a good, after 12 months, five months, what's 12 times 5? You know, it's a lot. So that's how I was able to keep it going. It's interesting in this second one, you go to the symposium, you can get a good um, um, 40 or 30 credit hours for that because it's an all-week event. And it doesn't have to be in INCOSE. If you go to a PMI type thing or a IEEE conference, all those are legitimate. They just want to see that you are increasing your professional development. And of course, I suggest once you become certified, pull down the renewal thing, make a Google Doc out of it, and anytime you go someplace, go in there and write it up. Because believe me, and I had this problem, trying to think what you did 3 years ago is not a cool thing. So really try to keep this up to date as you go along. That's about it. I'm going to hang here. I don't know what time it is actually. Um, it's almost 7:30. So we've been at this for almost an hour and a half. I hope I've answered some questions. Please, if you have more questions or I wasn't clear, go ahead and ask away. I'll stay on and read the chats if you have questions. I do want to acknowledge the fact that I pulled a lot of this information from INCOSE itself, of course, and they have a good brief, overview brief on their website that pretty much covers what I did. I added a few extra things, but the majority of it came from INCOSE. If you want to contact me, just hit info@sescholar.com. Or if you want to talk to the certification office, certification@incose.org will get you there. Courtney Wright, I've met her. She's a really good program manager and will try to answer your questions, especially when it gets a little difficult, like what is being allowed in terms of the criteria stuff. So don't forget, I do have a study guide. If you get into Canvas, what I did, here's what Canvas looks like. And what I did is I have this aspect that talks about preparing for the exam. And so I have the quiz in there, and I have a little link to a study guide. And basically what it is the 26 processes in their context diagram and their activities. I find it's a good way to study for the thing. Of course, the exam will have much more than that, but understanding the processes, of course, is one of the key aspects of understanding the handbook. And please don't forget, sign up for my course. I'm going to start in May 1st, and I'll be done by the end of May. So if you have your application in or you think you can get it in by the beginning of May, by the time I'm done, you may be ready to take the exam, and you can really cut short the amount of time it takes to actually get the certification. All right? So that's it. Please sign up for the Canvas when you get a chance. I've got some good information on there. I'll have this video on there if you ever want to look at it again. Maybe kind of boring, but you know, just or you know, you want to just make sure you're doing it right. And of course, in my Canvas, I have a sample things. I also have some really good reviews from other students, so I think you realize. Yes, Jess, I forgot. Yeah, it's on my website. I should have sent an email to everyone. But yeah, I'm going to start May 1st, so about not this coming Thursday, but next Thursday. And then we'll do Tuesday and Thursday from 6 to 9. So we'll see how we'll do. I noticed when doing Saturdays, it can be a little rough because it's about 3 hours in the morning and 3 in the evening, and can get really long. So I think it's a little better to get the little chunks, and also get you time. Okay, I learned this section of the handbook. Read that good, do the quizzes, and just get well in that. So that's one of the reasons I like splitting it up in the evening, and it keeps my weekends free as well. All right, that's it. So if you guys have any more questions. Oh, yes, Ed just finished exam prep course. Thanks, Ed. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you came back because that's right. Ed joined me rather quickly, but he didn't take this understanding the INCOSE certification process first. So he'll still need to get his application together, but it should be coming along with my help, with the little tips that I'm giving you. That's the other thing I have on the Canvas. I have this nice little tip sheet, which pretty much outlines pretty much what I asked you to do for the matrix and stuff like that. So if there are no more questions, I'll hang here and until everybody hangs up, and try not to look too awkward. Does this look awkward? Is that awkward? So, yeah, I wish you guys could talk, but this is a much better. As you can see, we were able to keep the settings going as we're doing it. All right. Thank you, Robin. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Dan. And thanks, Jess. I really appreciate all of you being here and stuff. And hopefully I can help you with my course as well. We'll see you guys later.